Hello, I'm Paul Carroll, technical writer for Digital Photo Magazine, and welcome to part 2 of this month's Digital Darkroom video tutorials on applying duotone effects in Photoshop. In this technique, we're going to be looking at how to apply a 4-ink quad tone effect to create an eye-catching split-toned image. When split-toning an image, it's important to use colours that work well together and don't clash. So in this technique, we're going to be using cyan, magenta, blues and blacks to create this subtle quad tone effect. We'll also be using the curve line for each ink to determine how the 4 inks are applied across the tonal register, adding cyan inks into the highlights, magenta to the midtones, and blues and blacks to the shadows. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to close down the image on screen and start by opening the file burner from off the CD. You can see that I've already converted the image into monochrome, but at the moment we're still in that RGB image mode. So as in part 1, the first thing that we need to do is adjust the image mode and go into grayscale. So up to the image menu, down to mode and across to grayscale. Click to discard the colour information, and now we're working in that single grayscale channel. Right, back up to the image menu, and this time we're going to go into the duotone image mode. So again, across on the mode option and down to duotone. Now you can see the effect that we applied in part 1 of these video tutorials has now been applied to our new image. Actually, it doesn't look too bad, does it? It looks quite nice. And that's likely to be the case. Any previous duotone settings that you've inputted in the dialog box will remain. Now it's quite easy to clear them. All we need to do is on the type box, click on the drop down menu and select monotone from the list, and that leaves ink 1 back to our default black, and it clears all of the other toning effects in inks 2, 3 or 4. Now as I've said, this time we're going to be applying a quad tone effect, so back up to the type box, click on the drop down menu again, and this time we're going to select quad tone from the list, and now you can see that all 4 of our toning inks become active. Now unlike our initial toning technique in part 1, in this technique I actually want to change the curve line for ink 1, and the reason for this is that I want to lighten the density of black ink which is being applied to the midtones, because that's where I want to put my darker magenta hues and some of those real dark blue hues as well. So to do that, just click on the curve line for ink 1, and in the 50 box, which remember represents the midtone values in our image, enter a figure of 25%, and that's really going to lighten the overall effect of the image, because we're only applying half the density of black ink to those midtonal values. Once that's done, just click OK. Now we want to start adding some of our toning ink. So on ink 2, click in the colour box, which again launches the colour library palette, but we want to use the colour picker because we're more familiar with that. So click on the picker button, which is on the right hand side, and I want to select a magenta to go into those mid-tone areas. So I'm going to enter RGB values of 139 in the red, 0 in the green, and 139 in the blue. That gives me a nice deep magenta, and click OK. Now I want to be adding this magenta tone to these mid-tone areas, but I want to restrict it in those darker shadow areas. So by clicking on the curve line, I can adjust the curve line. And if I input a figure of a 0% density in the 100 box, which remember is the darkest shades of our image, or darkest greys in our image, then you can see that the magenta ink that I've applied is having no effect on the image at all, because we're applying it in a density of 0 across the entire tonal register. But if I boost the density in the mid-tones, so in the 40 box if I enter a density of say 60%, and then in the 80 box if I crank that up to 85%, you can see that we've still got our very bright white highlight areas because we're applying no magenta toning to the brightest tones in the image, but then we're steadily increasing the density of the magenta tones around the mid-tones and some of the darker tones areas. But then by the time we get to our deepest shadows here at black, we're back down to 0% density. So these areas here are remaining black with no toning at all being applied. So I'll click OK to accept that curved line, and now I want to add my third ink. So to do that, simply click on the colour square next to ink 3. Again, we've got the colour libraries. I'm just going to hit the picker button, and this time I want to be entering a blue tone. So I'm going to enter RGB values of 0 for red, 0 for green, and 255 for blue, which will give me that pure blue, and click OK. Now with my blue ink, I want to restrict that to the darker grey values in the image. So again, I'm going to enter the tone curve, and this time I'm going to enter a figure of 35% in the 70 box, and you can see from the curve line that we're now applying a 0% density of blue ink in the lighter tonal values, and the curve line only starts to increase gradually once we get to well, the high 20s, nearly the 30 mark, and then increases gradually up into our darkest tonal values. And you can see by looking at the image the effect that that's having. We've still got the bright highlights here, the whites, then we've got our magenta tones in the lighter tonal register, and then going into the darker end of the tones, we're now applying that blue, and then we're going off into black. So I'm just going to click OK, and that applies that blue tone curve, and we're nearly there now. So all I need to do is add some cyan, and what I want to do is I want to add some cyan into these real bright highlight areas to really add some punch to the quad tone effect. So to do that, on ink 4, back into the colour square. Again, we've launched the colour library, hit the picker button, and this time we're going to enter the RGB values for cyan. So that's a red of 0, a green of 255, and a blue of 255, and click OK. And what we're going to do with this curve line is we're actually going to reverse the curve line. So we're going to add 100% density of the ink into the brightest white tonal values, but then we don't want to be adding any cyan at all into the darker areas. So we're going to enter a figure of 0% in the 100 box. Click OK. If I just drag the duo options box out of the way for a minute, you can now see that effect that's applied to the image. So the cyan ink is now just being dashed in those real bright highlight areas, but we've still got our magenta midtones, blue darker tones, and jet blacks. Okay, the duotones options box won't let me accept that tone without specifying ink names. You can see there I've got the error message when I tried to click OK. So we're just going to pop in here magenta, blue, and cyan, and then we can click OK to accept the effect. Once you've got a duo, tritone, or quadtone effect which works nicely on an image, if I just go back into the duotone options box, another great feature here is that you can actually save and load duotone effects. So simply click on the save button. You can give it a name, so I'll just call this blue cyan quad. Click save, and that's now saved that effect, and I can just simply load it up on other images in the future just by clicking the load button, and then from the presets folder, which is within your Adobe file structure, you can just select the saved duotone, tritone, or quadtone, click load, and it'll easily apply it across any image. Okay, I really hope you've enjoyed part 2 of this digital darkroom duotoning technique video. Give it a go using the start image off the CD, and then get quad toning and duotoning your images in the future. Okay, cheers.